Eugene Latham, class of 1955. After his career with the U.S. Air Force, Gene found himself in Mexico dusting crops and in love with the country. He bought a small newsletter from another American and changed its focus to the economy and investments, contributing to it monthly for 45 years. Subsequently, his business as a respected financial advisor grew. Yet while he prospered in Mexico, he was also deeply bothered by the poverty so apparent in the country. During an encounter with a Catholic priest named Bill Wasson, Gene began to assist with the formation of an organization now called Nuestros Pequeños Hermanos, or Our Little Brothers and Sisters. For over 50 years, NPH has cared for more than 25,000 orphaned girls and boys, providing them with a home, education, and support essential to their healthy development at one of their 9 homes throughout Latin America. Gene has served as president of NPH and has been integral to the success of the organization in achieving its mission.
A lot of what I was going to tell you, you just learned from this lovely lady. So I'll concentrate on telling you a little bit about the orphanage with which my wife and I have worked for almost 40 years now. It's really not an orphanage in the sense that you understand the word. It's a family. We accept only whole families. We never will split up a family as we take these children into our family. And we never give up anyone for adoption. We keep the children throughout their lifetime, helping them where we can with obviously food and clothing and shelter and whatnot, but education as well is very important to us. Many of our children have gone on to study in the United States. I'll tell you a couple of stories in a moment about some people who have really made a difference in the lives of a lot of people. But it's important to realize that the children are not given up to for adoption. They feel a sense of belonging. And the Catholic priest, I'm not Catholic, but this Catholic priest was somebody very special. He was unique and a genius in understanding children. Children want to belong. They need to belong. And if you're in a regular orphanage and worrying about who's going to adopt you, obviously you don't get that kind of feeling. And so let me tell you just a couple of stories. Poverty in Mexico is not the same word as poverty in the United States. The poverty line here, I think, now is around $20,000, if I'm correct. The poverty I'm talking about is $1 a day, or you know, very, very distinctive than the poverty that we know here, and it causes funny things. The gentleman at this moment who is the sub-director of our international operations arrived at our offices many, many years ago with 3 of his siblings, all daughters. His father had hacked to death his mother with a machete in front of all of them. And after 2 or 3 days of not knowing what to do and being traumatized by this act, they found someone who recommended that they came to us, and we took them in. One of the little girls was so traumatized that she didn't speak for 3 years. But through the development and through the love and through the children helping her and so forth, I'm happy to say that all 3 of those girls now are married, they have children, they have their own families, and this boy went to school at the University of North Carolina. He got himself a degree in business administration, and he's helping with the international operations of the orphanage. I don't want to forget it, and I've asked my wife to remind me if I did. She's the lady in the orange jacket there, and we worked together on this for 40-some-odd years. Anything you need to know about the orphanage, you can find at nph.org. Remember that, nph.org. It tells you all about the different homes in the different countries. It tells you about how we raise funds in Europe and in Japan and in the United States. The second little story I'll tell you is not quite as happy. A couple of years ago, we accepted a young girl in Nicaragua, in our operation in Nicaragua, an 8-year-old girl with her 2-month-old daughter. An 8-year-old girl with her 2-month-old daughter. The father, of course, had fled, gone. Nobody knew who he was, where he was, or anything. But this kind of thing is more prevalent where poverty of the kind that I'm talking about exists. People do strange things. The orphanage has been called a family. In fact, Erich Fromm called it the largest family in the world, and he wrote a book about it, said he was amazed at how happy he saw the children to be. And it's it's due, in fact, to the genius of this Catholic priest who died a couple of years ago. And another one of his marvelous actions was to create a group of people who keep this thing going. And now that he's gone, it still is prospering. We have a budget now of about $30 million a year. Each child, we calculate, costs about $400 a month, but that's room and board and clothing and housing and teachers and busing and everything. So any questions that you might like to ask afterwards, I'd be very, very happy to answer. I'll end with one thing. My mother was a kindergarten teacher, and my father was a superintendent of the Providence Boys Club in Rhode Island. When he retired, they gave him a little statue, which I have at home, and it said, "No man stands so tall as when he stoops to help a child." And I've lived by that, and it's true. Thank you very much.